The hum of the station's maintenance bay was steady, comforting in its monotony. Rows of consoles blinked with diagnostic lights, and the smell of ozone mixed with machine oil clung to the recycled air. Riley Chen sat cross-legged under the half-open panel of a jump drive regulator, a spanner between their teeth and grease streaked across one cheek. Another 12-hour shift, another faulty capacitor. No one ever said humanity's first interstellar station would be glamorous. The silence was broken by the faintest of sounds, a chime, crystalline and soft, as though glass had been tapped in another room. Riley froze, frowned, then leaned out from beneath the panel. The bay was empty, just the usual rows of idle drones and crates. But then came the flicker, a shimmer in the corner of the eye, like a mote of dust catching the wrong kind of light. Riley blinked hard. "Great, sleep deprivation's kicking in," they muttered, reaching back into the wiring. The shimmer drew closer, hovering now above the console. It pulsed, iridescent, almost alive. Riley squinted, sat up fully, and found themselves face to face with something no engineering manual could explain. It was tiny, no bigger than a kitten, and shaped with impossible delicacy. 4 legs, cloven hooves glinting like crystal. A spiral horn, almost transparent, sprouted from its forehead, humming with faint static. Its wings, if they were wings, flickered between existing and not, trailing a glittering afterimage. The creature's eyes, wide and luminous, locked on Riley's. "Okay," Riley whispered. "Either the coolant leaks worse than I thought, or—" The thing gave a tiny whicker, the sound impossibly soft in the sterile bay. It floated closer, testing the air as if scenting something. Riley instinctively leaned back, tools clattering to the floor. The creature made no move to attack. Instead, it stretched one impossibly small hoof forward, touched Riley's shoulder, then, without hesitation, curled up as if that shoulder had been waiting all along. Warmth spread instantly through Riley's body, a wave that wasn't chemical or mechanical but deeply, unnervingly emotional. The fatigue that had been chewing at their nerves all shift melted away. The ache in their temples eased. Their heartbeat slowed, not sedated but steadied, as though the creature had synced them to a rhythm only it knew. Hello?" Riley's voice cracked. The creature's only reply was to nestle more firmly against the crook of their neck, its horn dimming to a low, steady glow. It breathed in slow, delicate huffs, and within moments it was asleep. Riley sat frozen, spanner still on the floor, muscles refusing to twitch for fear of disturbing it. The bay hummed around them as though nothing had changed, but Riley knew with bone-deep certainty that everything had. A chime from the overhead comm shattered the quiet. "Maintenance Bay 12, report status," came the brusque voice of command. Riley jerked upright, causing the creature to stir faintly. Its glow flickered and Riley froze again, whispering hurriedly, "SHH, it's fine, go back to sleep." The glow steadied, the creature snuggled in closer. Riley exhaled, they slapped the comm. "Bay 12, regulators almost recalibrated, might need another cycle." "Copy that," command replied. "Keep at it. Aurelians are docking in 4 hours, so everything had better be spotless." The line cut. Riley stared at the small, impossible thing resting against their collarbone. Docking. Aurelians, the insectoid diplomats from Aurelian here on station business. Riley had never cared much for politics, only the technical headaches of keeping the damn station running. But a faint, creeping realization tickled the back of their mind. Aurelians, genetic biotech. Creatures that shimmered like living crystals, they swallowed hard. "You're not a pet, are you?" The nano-unicorn, there was no denying it, shifted slightly, its horn pulsing once, as if acknowledging the question. Then it gave the faintest sigh and returned to slumber. Riley stayed there for a long while, one hand hovering uselessly in the air, too afraid to move. They could feel its tiny heartbeat against their shoulder, synchronized with their own, as though the two rhythms had joined. Finally, with a shaky breath, Riley reached for the tools again. If anyone came down here, they'd have a lot of explaining to do, but some primal instinct screamed not to let anyone see this creature. Not yet. The bay door hissed open. Riley froze, heart spiking. A junior tech ambled in, data slate in hand, not even looking up. "Chen, you still here? Figures, always volunteering for graveyard shift." Riley hunched instinctively, angling their shoulder away. The unicorn's glow dimmed, almost camouflaging itself against their jumpsuit. "Yeah," Riley said too quickly. "Still here, regulators being stubborn." "Figures." The tech scribbled something, yawned, and left without another glance. The door sealed again. Riley let out a breath they hadn't realized they were holding. The unicorn hadn't stirred, hadn't made a sound, as if it understood the need for secrecy. Riley leaned back against the console, staring up at the cold steel ceiling. What the hell are you? The answer, for now, was the steady, dreamlike weight of a nano-unicorn asleep on their shoulder. The next morning, Riley knew something was wrong the moment they stepped out of the maintenance wing. The station felt tighter somehow, the air buzzing with the nervous energy that came before an inspection or a disaster. Crew members hurried along the corridors in knots, whispering in low, urgent voices. Command officers barked orders with clipped precision. No one smiled. Riley adjusted their jacket, pulling the collar higher to shield the faint glow pulsing against their neck. Vincent hadn't left their shoulder all night. He had shifted occasionally, sometimes stretching tiny wings that half existed, sometimes nuzzling into Riley's hair with an almost feline insistence, but never once moving away. When Riley had tried to coax him onto the bunk, he'd let out a sharp, offended whicker until Riley gave up. The result: Riley hadn't slept at all. They walked quickly, clutching a datapad as if it were a shield. The unicorn stirred faintly, his horn pulsing once before dimming again. Halfway down the corridor, the loudspeakers crackled. A voice, high and metallic, filled the air. Attention! By order of station command. All civilian personnel are to remain in their designated sectors. Security sweeps in progress. Cooperation mandatory. Riley slowed, pulse quickening. Security sweeps, that wasn't normal. They ducked into an alcove near a viewport, pretending to check a console. Outside, the stars glittered coldly, but it wasn't the stars that held their gaze. Docked against the far end of the station was an Aurelian ship. Organic in its lines, the vessel resembled a vast shell coiled in on itself, luminous veins pulsing faintly across its surface. Its sheer presence made the human-built station seem clumsy, angular, an ugly child clinging to a parent's arm. The Aurelians were here, and everyone knew it. "Chen!" A voice snapped behind them. Riley flinched and turned. Captain Jonah Vera strode toward them, broad-shouldered in his Black Fleet uniform, face set in its usual expression of irritation. His eyes, however, were sharper than usual, flicking quickly over Riley. "Why aren't you in the bay?" Riley said, fumbling with the datapad. "Finished the recalibration. Thought I'd check the stabilizer nodes." Jonah's gaze narrowed. He had known Riley long enough to hear when something was off. But he didn't press, not yet. Instead, he leaned in closer, voice dropping. "You hear the chatter." "Bits and pieces," Riley admitted. Jonah grunted. "The Aurelians lost something. Big, whole delegations snarling at command, demanding a full lockdown until it's found." Riley's stomach sank. They shifted their weight, acutely aware of the tiny warmth nestled against their collarbone. What they lose?" Riley asked carefully. Jonah shook his head. "Details are sealed, but whatever it is, it's not just cargo. They're calling it a sacred symbiont. That sound like anything you've heard before?" Riley forced a shrug. "Nope, not a clue." Jonah gave them one last sharp look, then straightened. "Keep your head down. Command S about to lose theirs, and if they start shoving, it'll be us grunts cleaning up the mess." He strode off, barking into his wrist comm. Riley exhaled slowly, pressing a hand against the unicorn's faintly glowing form. Vincent stirred, lifting his head just enough to glance at the retreating captain. Then he resettled with a soft chime, eyes closing again. "Yeah," Riley muttered. "Sacred symbiont figures." The next hour was a blur. Security units patrolled the corridors in tight squads, insectal drones whirring alongside them. Crew were corralled into common areas, scanned, and released only after tense checks. Riley did everything possible to avoid attention, staying bent over consoles, eyes on diagnostic screens, tools in hand. But Vincent wasn't cooperating. Whenever an Aurelian patrol passed nearby, the unicorn's horn would brighten faintly, a pulse Riley could feel against their skin. It wasn't hostile, more like recognition or irritation. Riley whispered warnings through clenched teeth, trying to keep him still, praying no one noticed the flicker of light against their collar. Finally, as Riley knelt behind a diagnostics panel in the reactor wing, voices rose sharply from the adjoining chamber. The Aurelians had arrived. Through the open hatch, Riley glimpsed them, tall figures draped in robes that shimmered like molten glass, their crystalline carapaces catching the overhead lights. Their compound eyes glittered, alien and cold, as they demanded something from the human commander standing stiffly before them. "A relic of the Empress herself," one Aurelian hissed, voice resonant and vibrating through the metal walls. "It cannot simply vanish. Your station is sealed until it is returned." "Our records show no unauthorized transfers," the human commander replied, voice brittle. We're searching every module. If your property is aboard, it will be found. Not property, the Aurelian snapped. Sanctity you cannot understand. Riley pressed back against the wall, heart hammering. Vincent stirred again, restless now. The tiny unicorn pressed closer, as if sensing the Aurelians nearby. The Aurelians swept from the chamber, trailed by their bioengineered guards, creatures like chitinous hounds with too many legs. As they passed the hatch, Riley shrank further into the shadows, clutching Vincent protectively. One guard paused, antennae twitching as though sniffing the air. The unicorn's glow dimmed almost completely, his breathing shallow. Riley didn't dare move. After a long moment, the guards moved on. The Aurelians' footsteps receded down the corridor. Only then did Riley allow themselves to breathe again. Vincent peeked out from under their collar, tiny eyes wide and luminous, then gave the faintest huff against Riley's neck. It was almost a reassurance. Riley closed their eyes. We're so screwed. Riley sat stiffly in the corner of the briefing room, trying to make themselves invisible while every senior officer on the station argued across the long table. Vincent was tucked neatly beneath their jacket collar, curled like a warm knot against their skin, faintly pulsing with each breath. Riley's neck itched with sweat. If anyone looked too closely, if anyone noticed the light, it would all be over. The Aurelians stood at the far end, towering over the humans, their crystalline carapaces glinting like molten glass under the harsh overheads. Commander Thalassa herself was among them, her height imposing even by Aurelian standards. Her wings shimmered faintly in agitation as her sharp, melodic voice carried across the room. You dare suggest incompetence when your station reeks of neglect. My Empress's relic is not some misplaced trinket. It is sacred beyond price, beyond your comprehension. Every second wasted risks dishonor. We demand immediate reclamation. The human admiral bristled, gray uniform stiff as steel. Commander, we've allowed your patrols, we've locked down our docks, and we're scanning every bay. But this station is human territory, and our crews will not be treated like criminals. You are criminals, Thalassa snapped, mandibles flaring. Thieves or fools too blind to guard what is not yours. Either way, the relic will be taken back, even if I must rip apart this rusted carcass of a station. The officers erupted into shouting, half protesting, half demanding calm. Riley lowered their head, staring at their hands on the datapad, willing their pulse to quiet. Vincent stirred, restless, pressing harder against their skin as if sensing the tension. The warmth in Riley's chest spiked. Thalassa's gaze swept suddenly over the room, sharp as a blade. For a fraction of a second, Riley felt those alien eyes land on them, pinning them in place. The commander tilted her head slightly, as though hearing something distant, then dismissed it, turning back to the admiral. Your time is almost gone, she hissed. My soldiers already prepare to sweep your sectors. Resist, and you'll be dealt with accordingly. The Aurelians filed out, their insectal guards clicking behind them. The tension didn't leave with them. The humans collapsed into hushed argument, mutters of war and diplomacy threading through the air. Riley slipped out the side door as quietly as possible, every step a prayer. The corridors beyond the command sector were crawling with security. Drone patrols hummed past, scanning with harsh red light. Marines in full armor clustered at checkpoints, eyes hard with exhaustion and suspicion. Crew members shuffled nervously through inspections, stripped of privacy under the Aurelians' demands. Riley kept their head down, clutching their datapad like a passport. Every time a scanner swept close, Vincent's horn flickered faintly, threatening exposure. Riley held their breath, whispering against their collar, "Please, just stay still." "Please." Vincent made a tiny sound, a half-asleep chime, and nestled closer. The scanner passed without alarm. Riley walked on, legs shaking. When they finally reached the maintenance wing, Jonah was waiting, arms crossed, jaw tight. His expression softened only slightly when he saw Riley. "There you are. Thought maybe Command had drafted you for scapegoat duty." "Almost," Riley muttered. Jonah studied them, then leaned in, voice low. "They're going to turn this place upside down. Aurelians don't bluff. If they don't find their toy soon, this turns bloody. And I don't want you anywhere near that crossfire, you understand?" Riley nodded automatically, though the words barely registered. Jonah's eyes narrowed. "What's wrong with you? You're twitchier than usual." "Nothing," Riley said quickly. "Just tired, been on shift too long." Jonah didn't look convinced, but he let it drop. "Get some rest, Chen. That's an order. And if Command calls for you, don't answer. Trust me." He clapped Riley's shoulder, then strode off. Vincent shifted at the contact, a faint spark running through Riley's nerves where Jonah's hand had touched. Riley almost cried out but bit it back. Jonah was already gone. The relief lasted only a moment. A new alarm blared through the corridor, sharp and urgent. Security sweep commencing. All personnel remain in place. Riley's blood went cold. The corridor lights dimmed, replaced by pulsing red strips. The bay doors slammed shut. Heavy footfalls echoed as Aurelian soldiers advanced, accompanied by their hounds. Riley ducked into the maintenance bay, sealing the hatch behind them. Their hands shook as they shoved tools aside, searching for cover. Vincent was fully awake now, glowing brighter in agitation, his tiny hooves scraping lightly against Riley's collar. "Stop!" Riley hissed. "You're going to get us both killed." The unicorn's glow pulsed once, insistent. He didn't understand fear, or maybe he understood too much. His eyes, wide and iridescent, locked on Riley's as though demanding trust. The hatch behind them vibrated with a heavy knock. "Maintenance worker, step out for inspection." The voice was mechanical, filtered through a translator, but the weight of command was unmistakable. Riley's breath caught. Their bodies screamed to comply, to open the hatch, to hand over whatever this creature was and beg for mercy. But the warmth at their neck deepened, steady and anchoring. For the first time, Riley realized it wasn't just soothing them, it was holding them still, keeping their panic from spiraling. "I can't," Riley whispered. The knock came again, harder. "Open now." Vincent shifted suddenly, pressing his horn against the base of Riley's neck. A jolt like static surged through them, and from above the station rumbled with activity. The Aurelians weren't just searching. They were tearing through corridors, sweeping bays with their bioengineered hounds, voices sharp and resonant as they barked orders. Riley's ears rang from the mechanical clatter, the crackle of alarms, the murmured human protests mixing with alien clicks and hisses. They felt dizzy, lungs tight from the effort and the adrenaline. "Just a little further," Riley whispered to themselves, fingers scraping along the metallic wall, feeling the ridges for handholds. Vincent twitched, horn flickering briefly, and the faint pulse at Riley's neck seemed to synchronize with their racing heartbeat. The shaft ended abruptly at a junction, a cross-shaped tunnel with multiple exits, none marked on any schematics Riley had memorized. They crouched, considering their options, listening. Footsteps echoed nearby, 2 sets, moving methodically, Aurelian voices commanding in musical cadence. "Stay calm," Riley hissed to Vincent. The unicorn responded with a soft, vibrating hum that seemed to resonate through Riley's chest. A pulse, faint but steady, that reminded Riley of the strange stillness they'd felt the first night. One tunnel led up toward the orbital docks. Another sloped downward into the cargo hold. A third, narrower, seemed less traveled, judging by the dust and debris. The fourth led back toward the main corridors, the path they'd already fled. Riley's mind raced, weighing speed against safety. The docks meant the possibility of escape via transport shuttles, but it also meant open space and line of sight for Aurelians. Cargo hold might hide them, but risked being trapped. Narrow tunnel was slow, but the least obvious. Riley chose the narrow path, sliding through the constriction with Vincent pressed tight against their shoulder. The little creature hissed softly, wings flickering in near-invisible arcs, and Riley realized with a jolt that Vincent was somehow sensing the dangers ahead, reacting to vibrations in the walls or air currents they couldn't perceive. They emerged into a low-ceilinged maintenance corridor, dusty and dim, shafts of light cutting through vents above. Riley paused, listening. Footsteps were distant, voices still sharp but not immediately on their trail. Relief was brief. In the distance, a patrol drone hovered, scanning in broad sweeps, red lights swinging slowly. "Almost got you," Riley muttered, heart hammering. They pressed themselves against a wall, waiting for the sweep to pass. Vincent's glow dimmed to near invisibility, the pulse at Riley's neck slowing in tandem with their cautious breathing. The drone drifted past. Riley exhaled, whispered, "Good job, tiny idiot." Vincent's soft, vibrating hum sounded almost like acknowledgement. They moved again, faster now, toward the cargo hold. Riley's mind was racing, not just with fear, but with questions. How had Vincent survived the station's defenses? How had he escaped the control systems that monitored every bioengineered organism aboard? And most importantly, why had he chosen them? The answer, Riley suspected, was not something they could understand. Not yet. A sudden, sharp vibration rattled the floor beneath them. Riley froze. The vibration grew, thrumming in the metal beneath their feet. Vincent hissed softly, horn pulsing urgently. Then the floor shuddered violently, panels rattling, and a section of the wall ahead erupted in splinters of metal and light. A squad of Aurelian soldiers, their carapaces glittering, had found the shaft's exit. Behind them, two of their hounds slithered, multi-legged and chitinous, scanning with a faint bioelectric glow. Riley's stomach dropped. There was no way back, no time to hide. "Vincent," Riley whispered, heart hammering. The little unicorn lifted his head, eyes glowing brighter, wings flickering into existence in arcs of near light. Then with a small, piercing whistle, he shifted weight and leapt. Not from the ground, but seemingly through the space itself, vanishing and reappearing inches ahead in a flash of iridescent light. Riley stared, mouth open, as the little creature repeated the motion, hopping along the corridor, each leap leaving a faint trail of static. Panic and awe collided in Riley's chest. What the hell are you?" Vincent's voice, if it could be called that, resonated in Riley's mind. A soft, insistent vibration, not words but meaning. "Follow." Instinct took over. Riley ran, following the faint shimmer left behind. They barely noticed the soldiers, startled shouts, or the hounds attempting to intercept. Vincent's leap seemed to bend space around him, the little creature slipping past physical obstacles with impossible precision. Riley's legs burned, lungs screaming, sweat stinging their eyes. The corridor curved, leading them to the lower cargo hold. Large crates loomed like walls. Riley dove behind one, panting, Vincent still pressed to their shoulder, glowing faintly, wings fluttering anxiously. Outside, footsteps pounded closer. Riley's fingers dug into the crate's edge, heart hammering as soldiers passed within arm's reach. Vincent's glow pulsed once sharply, sending a vibration through Riley's chest, calming yet alerting. They were almost out, almost. Then a voice, high and melodic, cut through the air, unmistakable. "Chen." Riley froze. Commander Thalas's voice carried directly through the station's comm net, crystal clear despite the distance. "Step out and the relic will be unharmed. Resist and your station and perhaps your life will be forfeit." Riley swallowed. They could hear the hounds sniffing, the soldiers' armor clicking. Escape seemed impossible. And yet Vincent stirred, tiny hooves braced, horn glowing with an intensity that made the metal walls around them quiver. Riley exhaled, heart hammering, and whispered, "Okay, let's see what you can do." Vincent gave a soft, decisive chime, and for the first time, Riley realized they weren't just fleeing. They were being protected by something beyond comprehension, something that refused to be captured, something that inexplicably had chosen them. The cargo hold trembled as Vincent's glow spread, pushing the shadows and the soldiers back, creating a corridor of impossible light. Riley didn't hesitate. They ran, clutching their tiny, impossible ally, sprinting toward freedom, toward the unknown, toward a future that would never be the same. Riley stumbled into the dimly lit corridor of the station's lower maintenance sector, clutching Vincent tightly against their chest. The tiny creature's horn pulsed softly, a steady rhythm that seemed to calm Riley even as their breathing came in ragged gasps. The station's alarms still blared in the distance, the echoes of Aurelian patrols hunting them reverberating through the metal corridors. They paused at a junction, pressed back against a wall, and tried to catch their thoughts. Every option seemed worse than the last. The docks were heavily monitored, the cargo holds could trap them, and every human hiding spot was likely compromised by the Aurelians' bio-drones. Riley's pulse raced faster at the thought of being caught, and Vincent shifted restlessly, sensing their panic. "All right," Riley whispered, voice shaking. "We need a plan." Vincent gave a soft chime in response, a sound that resonated in Riley's chest. It wasn't a voice, not exactly, but Riley could almost feel intention behind it. "Follow." Riley's eyes flicked to a side shaft, narrow and unmonitored. They squeezed through, Vincent clinging tightly, glowing faintly. The narrow corridor curved downward, leading them away from the main traffic of patrols and drones. Every step brought a fresh wave of tension, every shadow threatening pursuit. After several minutes of crawling and ducking through narrow vents, they reached a junction where the path opened slightly into a small maintenance chamber. Riley's eyes adjusted to the dim light, revealing racks of old diagnostic equipment and storage crates. They ducked behind a stack of crates, pressing Vincent close. "All right, little guy," Riley whispered. "Let's see if we can figure out what you really are." The unicorn stirred, lifting its head and fixing Riley with wide, iridescent eyes. Its horn pulsed lightly, almost rhythmically, and Riley noticed a faint warmth radiating from it, not heat exactly, but energy. Calm, steady, anchored. Riley had never felt anything like it. Their thoughts were interrupted by a soft, scuttling sound. Riley's head snapped up. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and thin, with crystalline carapace glinting faintly under the chamber lights. Riley froze, heart hammering. "Do not be afraid," the figure said, voice soft, melodic, resonating in the chamber. "You are the one the child has chosen." Riley blinked. "Excuse me." The figure stepped closer, human, not entirely. Their movements were fluid, precise, alien in a way that didn't scream hostility. Their eyes, multifaceted and luminous, studied Riley intently. "I am Iron," they said. "I helped create what you carry, and now you carry it." Riley's grip on Vincent tightened. You made him." "Yes," Iron said simply. "But he was never meant for anyone like you, not human, not even outside the lab." And yet, they paused, eyes drifting toward the unicorn, who now watched them warily but without fear. "He has chosen you. That is new." Riley swallowed, panic and confusion mixing. "Chosen me? I'm just me. I fix jump drives. I barely make it through a shift without screwing something up. Why would he pick me?" Iron's eyes softened, or as soft as crystalline facets could seem. "Because he sensed something in you that we could not code, simulate, or engineer. He is evolving in ways no lab anticipated. You are a catalyst, a bond he has sought beyond the walls of his design." Riley's head spun. "Catalyst." "Yes," Iron said. "He is not simply a stabilizer, he is potential. Potential for change, for connection, for evolution. What you have now is unprecedented and dangerous for both you and him." Riley's hands trembled. "Dangerous how?" Iron's gaze shifted, calculating. "The Aurelian factions will not understand. They see him as a tool, a relic, something to be claimed or destroyed. They will hunt you, capture you, perhaps even attempt to contain him forcibly. But what you carry cannot be contained. Not by them, not by anyone." Riley glanced down at Vincent, who was blinking slowly, ears flicking, horn dimmed but pulsing faintly. There was a weight to the little creature, a quiet insistence that Riley was already feeling. "Then what do I do?" Riley asked, voice small, almost trembling. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a diplomat." "I'm not." Iron knelt slightly, bringing themselves closer to Riley's level. "You do what you have already done. Protect him. Listen, learn, and trust him because he has chosen you. That choice will be stronger than any weapon, stronger than any fleet." Riley swallowed hard, heart pounding. "Okay, protect him, trust him, got it, but we can't stay here." Iron nodded. "No, not if the Aurelians discover you. They will not wait for explanations. Follow the maintenance tunnels to the lower shuttle bays. There I can guide you off station. But know this, once you leave, nothing will be the same. The moment he bonded with you, the moment you became chosen, you entered a world far beyond your comprehension." Riley's stomach dropped. "You mean war?" Iron shook their head. "Worse, transformation. You may not survive unchanged, and neither may he. But if you succeed, you may change everything, for him, for you, for humanity." Riley glanced down at Vincent, feeling the warmth and rhythm of the unicorn pressed against them. The little creature stirred, wings flickering softly, horn pulsing. Riley realized the truth of Iron's words. This was not just a flight for safety. This was the start of something larger than themselves, something terrifying and impossible. "Then we go," Riley said finally, voice firm. "We go, and we survive together." Vincent wickered softly, head nudging Riley's collar, a vibration that felt like agreement. Iron stepped back, eyes lingering on the pair, faint trace of worry or admiration in the faceted gaze. "Follow the path I mark," Iron instructed. "Hurry, every second counts. They will not forgive delay." Riley nodded, gripping Vincent tighter. They moved cautiously toward the marked tunnel, every step echoing in the empty chamber. The station's alarms blared faintly in the distance, but Riley no longer felt panic, only purpose, only urgency, and somehow the weight of the tiny unicorn on their shoulder made them feel ready. As they slipped into the shadowed maintenance shaft, Riley realized the truth. They were no longer just an engineer. They were a fugitive, a guardian, and perhaps the first human to touch a fragment of something far beyond comprehension. And Vincent had chosen them, and that choice would change everything. Riley's boots clanged softly against the narrow metal catwalk above the cargo hold, every step a careful calculation of noise and balance. Vincent perched on their shoulder, tiny hooves pressing against the collar of Riley's jumpsuit, horn pulsing faintly as if sensing every vibration in the structure beneath them. The station groaned around them, hydraulic systems releasing pressure in low, ominous thumps, shadows twisting across the walls like living things. "Almost there," Riley muttered, voice low, trying to convince themselves more than Vincent. The shuttle bays were only a few corridors ahead, Iron's directions etched clearly in their memory. Yet every turn, every junction seemed to stretch endlessly, the station's labyrinthine design a trap for the unprepared. From above came a sudden clatter, the metallic rasp of armored boots. Riley froze, pressed against a bulkhead, heart hammering. The Aurelians had discovered the exit corridor. Chen, a voice echoed, smooth and resonant, carrying through the metal walls. Commander Thalassa. Her presence was like a blade drawn across Riley's spine. Surrender the relic. Do not make this more difficult than it already is. Riley's chest tightened. I can't, they whispered, more to themselves than to anyone else. Vincent twitched, wings flickering into near-invisible arcs, and the horn's glow brightened slightly. The tiny creature shifted, leaning forward, anticipating the approaching threat. The armored hounds followed, clicking across the grated floors, sensors glowing faintly as they scanned for the fugitive pair. Riley's fingers flexed around a loose pipe near the catwalk, a desperate thought forming, distraction, misdirection, anything to buy time. Then Vincent stirred. The little unicorn's eyes widened, shimmering with a new intensity, horn pulsing in an almost musical rhythm. Riley felt it in their chest before their ears could register the sound. A faint resonance, vibration crawling along nerves, coaxing muscles to react faster, reflexes sharper. The world seemed to slow, every footstep of the pursuers drawn out. What the hell? Riley started, eyes wide, as Vincent's glow flared brighter. The tiny creature hopped from shoulder to shoulder, small hooves skimming Riley's arms, leaving faint arcs of light that warped the air around them. The hounds recoiled, sensors flickering as the strange energy pulse distorted readings. The Aurelians shouted, mandibles clicking in confusion, attempting to recalibrate their scanners. Thalassa's voice rose, sharp and commanding. Contain it. Do not allow the bond to stabilize further. Riley didn't understand what Vincent was doing, couldn't, not fully. But instinct screamed to keep moving, to follow the little unicorn's lead. They sprinted along the catwalk, leaping over maintenance conduits and sparking panels, Vincent clinging tight, wings flickering intermittently as though propelling them forward. Each stride left a faint afterimage of light in their wake, a visual echo that confused the pursuers and created space where there was none. Halfway across the span, a patrol drone swooped down, red sensors scanning. Riley froze. Vincent's horn pulsed, brighter now, and suddenly the drone's circuits hummed, lights scrambling. It spiraled erratically, then slammed against the bulkhead in a shower of sparks. Riley stumbled but didn't fall, adrenaline forcing them forward, Vincent adjusting his weight to stabilize their balance. The sound of hounds pounding behind them grew faint, but the aura of Vincent's energy was increasing, almost tangible. Riley realized with a jolt that the unicorn wasn't just reacting. He was actively defending them, bending the environment in ways impossible to explain. Metallic surfaces shimmered where his light touched, sensors went blind. Even the sound of pursuit seemed muted in the immediate space around them. Riley stumbled into a junction leading down toward the lower shuttle bays. Another set of soldiers appeared, blocking the way. Thalassa herself, crystalline wings spread slightly, mandibles clicking in frustration. Do not force my hand, human, relinquish it. Vincent lifted his tiny head, horn glowing like a miniature sun. A pulse of energy radiated outward, hitting the Aurelian soldiers like a shockwave. They staggered back, eyes wide, equipment sparking, unable to approach further. Thalassa froze, clearly calculating, unsure how to respond. Riley's heart thundered. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up, they whispered. Vincent gave a soft, vibrating chime, then whickered, and the path forward cleared just enough for them to sprint. The catwalk descended steeply into the shuttle bays. Riley slid down the rail, Vincent clinging as sparks flew off their boots from friction. They hit the metal floor hard, rolling instinctively into cover behind a cargo crate. The shuttle bays were massive, half-lit, filled with vessels of varying design, human and alien. The faintest hiss of pressurization and life support systems hummed in the background. Riley peeked out. Guards and drones were gathering near the catwalk exit, regrouping, trying to assess what had just occurred. Vincent stirred, glowing faintly again, lifting himself onto Riley's shoulder with determination. The unicorn's eyes locked onto a shuttle. Riley swallowed hard, gripping Vincent tighter. The little unicorn twitched against them, horn pulsing rhythmically, a soft hum vibrating in Riley's chest. It was a strange, comforting cadence, like the creature was giving them courage through sheer will. Riley had no idea how it worked, but it worked. Ready, Jonah asked, eyes flicking toward the open ramp. Riley nodded, voice barely audible. As I'll ever be. Vincent leapt lightly from their shoulder, landing on the shuttle's hull with impossibly soft precision. His horn pulsed, throwing faint arcs of light along the metal surface, as if charting a path for them. Riley followed, stepping carefully onto the ramp, Jonah at their side, every nerve screaming with tension. Behind them, the sound of the Aurelian soldiers reached a fever pitch. Metallic claws scraped the catwalks, mandibles clicked in frustration, and the hounds whirred and scuttled, senses scrambled by Vincent's interference. Riley felt the pulse from the unicorn's horn against their collarbone, synchronized with their heartbeat, guiding them forward. The shuttle's interior was cramped, but Riley barely noticed. They crouched, dragging Vincent inside, careful not to jostle him. Jonah secured the ramp behind them, activating the rudimentary locking mechanism. The hum of the shuttle's engines began, tentative but functional, as Riley pulled the hatch closed. Outside, the sounds of pursuit grew distant. Vincent's horn flared briefly, a signal or perhaps a warning, and the tiny unicorn gave a soft chime that resonated through the shuttle's thin hull. Riley pressed a hand against their chest, feeling the vibration and realizing it was more than noise, it was reassurance. Jonah tapped the shuttle's control panel, voice tense. Auto-calibrating the jump drive. Should get us clear of the station in 30 seconds. Riley exhaled slowly, trying to steady their breathing. Vincent shifted, resting lightly against their shoulder again, his glow dim but steady, eyes tracking every movement outside the viewport. You're amazing, Riley murmured, almost to themselves. I don't even know what you are, but... The shuttle jolted as the engines spun up, vibrations coursing through the metal floor. Riley grabbed a support rail, Vincent balancing instinctively. Outside, the station receded, a maze of lights and steel, Aurelian still searching, still angry. But for the first time, Riley felt a sense of control. Not absolute, not complete, but tangible. Jonah's voice broke the tension. Chen, listen. Once we're clear, Command's going to want answers. The humans, the Aurelians, everyone. They're not going to understand what's happening. You need to be ready for that. Riley nodded, eyes on Vincent. The little unicorn gave a soft whicker, as if acknowledging the warning. Riley realized something important. They didn't just have to survive the flight. They had to protect Vincent and whatever he represented. Not just from the Aurelians, but from anyone who didn't understand. The shuttle lurched as the jump drive initiated, stars stretching into lines across the viewport. Riley clutched the railing, feeling the centrifugal force press them against the floor. Vincent's wings flickered, almost imperceptibly, as if adjusting to the sudden acceleration. The pulse of the unicorn's horn intensified, resonating through Riley's chest, steadying their nerves in the midst of chaos. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. The starfield outside twisted and blurred, the hum of the engines deepening, and slowly the station fell away. Aurelians remained, but they were distant now, frustrated and unable to follow. The jump drive carried the shuttle beyond their immediate reach, into unclaimed space. Riley sank onto the bench, Vincent curling against their shoulder. They allowed themselves a brief moment to breathe, to absorb what had happened. The little unicorn was warm, steady, alive in a way Riley had never experienced before. They felt the bond forming, not something they fully understood, but undeniable. Jonah leaned back, exhaling with relief. Well, that was fun. His attempt at humor fell flat, but Riley smiled faintly anyway. Riley's gaze remained on Vincent, watching the horn pulse softly, wings flickering in lazy arcs. You've got to teach me how to do that someday, they whispered. Or at least keep us alive until I figure it out. Vincent gave a soft, vibrating hum, almost a purr, and rested his head against Riley's neck. Riley's chest tightened, a mix of awe and fear. The universe outside was vast, and they had no idea what awaited them, but for the first time since this nightmare began, they felt a thread of certainty. They were not alone. They had Vincent. And whatever this creature was, whatever he could do, he had chosen them. The jump drive engaged fully, stars streaking past in blinding lines. Riley pressed a hand to Vincent's glowing horn, feeling the steady pulse that matched their heartbeat. Jonah watched the controls, tense but competent, and the shuttle carried them further from danger. Riley whispered softly, almost a vow, "We'll survive this, together." Vincent whickered softly, and for a moment, the vast emptiness of space outside felt like the smallest, safest place in the universe. The shuttle drifted through unclaimed space, engines humming softly as Riley sank against the bench, Vincent nestled on their shoulder. The tiny unicorn's horn glowed faintly, casting a soft, iridescent light across the cramped cabin. Riley's mind raced, every nerve still tight from the escape. Jonah monitored the consoles silently, fingers moving with practiced precision, though his expression betrayed unease. "Chen," Jonah said finally, voice low, careful. "We need to talk about our next move. We can't keep running forever." Riley's hand pressed against Vincent's tiny body instinctively. The little creature shifted, wings flickering, horn pulsing faintly, almost like it understood the gravity of the conversation. "I know," Riley muttered, "but where do we even go, the Aurelians?" "They won't stop," Jonah interrupted. "Not until they get him back or until he's neutralized, and I don't mean captured. They won't understand what he's becoming." Riley's chest tightened. "Becoming." Jonah gestured at the tiny unicorn. "He's evolving, Chen. What you've got there isn't just a relic or a stabilizer. He's beyond what any of us were told." The way he acted back on the station, against the hounds, the patrols, he changed the environment around him. That's not supposed to be possible, not for something engineered. Riley's eyes drifted to Vincent. The little creature twitched, ears flicking, horn pulsing in a steady rhythm that seemed to calm the rising panic in Riley's chest. "I don't know how to handle that," Riley admitted. "I'm just me. I don't have protocols for this." Jonah's jaw tightened. "Then we improvise, which is what we've been doing so far, and I think it's time you understand something critical. There are people in the human factions who wouldn't hesitate to sell him back, for the right price. For favors with the Aurelians." Riley's stomach lurched. "Sell him? Are you serious?" "Deadly serious," Jonah said flatly. "They don't see what you do, they don't see him, they see leverage, commodity, relic. And the second you're caught without control, they'll act." Riley swallowed, gripping Vincent tighter. The unicorn stirred, softly vibrating against their necks, small wings flicking. Horn pulsed as if sensing Riley's rising fear. "Then we can't trust anyone," Riley whispered, voice low. "No humans, no factions, not even command. We're on our own." Jonah nodded slowly. "Exactly, which means you and him, Vincent, have to be ready for anything. And I mean anything. He's evolving, sure, but that doesn't mean he can survive humans trying to turn him into a bargaining chip." Riley's mind spun. They thought of the Aurelian pursuit, the hounds, the soldiers, Thalassa's mandibles clicking in frustration as Vincent disrupted their sensors. They thought of every narrow escape, every pulse of energy that had shielded them, every leap across catwalks and through the maintenance shafts. The little unicorn on their shoulder was small, almost impossibly delicate, yet he had repeatedly defied the odds. I can't hand him over," Riley said finally. "Not to anyone, not even if they promise safety. They won't understand him, they'll ruin him." Vincent's horn pulsed brighter, a small, insistent thrum against Riley's chest. He nuzzled closer, tiny wings brushing lightly against Riley's neck. It was both reassurance and agreement. Riley's chest tightened at the realization. The bond between them wasn't just instinct or habit. Vincent had chosen them, and they had chosen him in return. The shuttle jolted slightly as Jonah adjusted the controls, charting a course deeper into unclaimed space. Riley's gaze wandered to the viewport, stars stretching into streaks. They knew it wouldn't last. The Aurelians wouldn't give up. And the human factions that wanted to profit from Vincent were out there, waiting, calculating. Minutes passed in tense silence. Riley finally broke it. "Jonah, how do we keep him safe? How do I keep him safe?" Jonah exhaled, rubbing a hand across his face. "You trust him, Chen, that's the key. He's already shown he's capable of things we can't understand. He can protect himself in ways we can't predict, but you have to make sure no one interferes with him. Not human, not Aurelian. You keep him alive and he'll keep you alive, but you can't falter." Riley swallowed hard, staring down at Vincent. The little unicorn's eyes, iridescent and knowing, met theirs. It wasn't just reassurance anymore. It was a silent promise. Together they could survive whatever came. But then a sharp ping from the navigation console snapped them both to attention. Jonah's fingers danced over the panel, eyes narrowing. "Incoming signal," he muttered. "Unencrypted, human channel, I don't recognize the code." Riley stiffened. Could be someone trying to sell him back. "Or a trap," Jonah said grimly. "Or both." The console blinked. A flickering message displayed in crude, blocky text. "We know where the unicorn is. Hand it over and you may survive." Riley's stomach turned. They glanced at Vincent. The little unicorn shivered, horn flickering, wings extending slightly in warning. It was the first time Riley had seen him tense, aware of the threat before them. "No," Riley whispered, voice firm despite the fear rising. We don't negotiate, we don't surrender, not him, not ever. Jonah's eyes met theirs, expression taut but approving. Then we prepare, because the moment they realize you won't give him up willingly, they'll come for you, all of them. Riley nodded, gripping Vincent tightly. The tiny unicorns stirred, nuzzling their neck, pulse steady against their chest, wings flickering with faint energy. Riley realized that whatever came next, they weren't alone. The first flicker of a distant light appeared on the shuttle's sensors. Another ship, human or Aurelian, it didn't matter yet. Riley's heart pounded. They weren't just running anymore. They were being hunted. And every choice they made now would decide whether they survived, and whether Vincent's evolution would be corrupted or erased entirely. Riley pressed their hand against the tiny glowing horn, feeling the thrum vibrate through their chest. Whispered words formed without thought. We survive, together. Vincent gave a soft chime, wings fluttering once as if agreeing. Outside, the stars stretched, unyielding and cold, and Riley knew that the fight was far from over. The moment to survive had only just begun. Riley gripped the shuttle's controls tighter than necessary, knuckles white, as the incoming ship loomed larger on the sensors. The displays flickered in the dim light, showing the silhouette of a sleek, elongated vessel, definitely not human, definitely not casual. Vincent clung to Riley's shoulder, tiny hooves pressing into the collar, wings fluttering lightly, horn pulsing with a rhythm that mirrored Riley's racing heartbeat. Jonah's voice cut through the tense hum of the shuttle's engines. They're trying to intercept. They've calculated our trajectory. We've got maybe a minute before they reach firing range. Riley swallowed, glancing at the tiny unicorn. What do we do? Vincent twitched, horn pulsing faster, wings flickering as if responding to the alien presence. The small creature nuzzled Riley's neck briefly, a vibration like a silent command. Trust me. Riley felt a surge of courage despite the fear curling in their stomach. All right, Riley muttered, voice firm. We follow your lead. The shuttle lurched as Jonah engaged evasive thrusters, skimming past floating debris, weaving through asteroid fragments that littered the edge of the unclaimed system. Outside the viewport, the intercepting ship followed in precise formation, sleek and menacing, glinting under the distant starlight. The first shot hit, a beam of concentrated energy that scorched across the vacuum, slamming into the shuttle's hull. Sparks erupted inside, consoles flickering wildly. Riley gritted their teeth, trying to maintain control, while Vincent pressed close, horn glowing brighter in a pulse that seemed to stabilize the trembling systems around them. Chen. Jonah barked, use the corridor. Riley followed instinct, turning sharply into a narrow asteroid corridor. The walls loomed close, rough rock brushing the shuttle as they sped past. The pursuing ship fired again, but the small passage made targeting difficult. Riley's hands shook, every motion precise and desperate, but Vincent's faint, guiding pulses through Riley's chest felt like a tether, a lifeline. They're adjusting, Jonah muttered, eyes scanning the sensors. They'll follow if we don't do something more drastic. Riley's heart sank. Drastic how? Vincent stirred, wings flicking rapidly, horn glowing intensely. The small unicorn leapt off Riley's shoulder, hovering in the narrow cockpit, iridescent light wrapping around the shuttle. The consoles flickered, thrummed, and systems outside seemed to resonate with him. The pursuing ship shuddered on sensors, thrusters misfiring, beams scattering as if the very space around the shuttle resisted them. Riley blinked, voice barely audible. He's manipulating the space. Jonah's jaw tightened. Don't question it. Just fly. Riley nodded, adjusting controls as the small unicorn hovered near the control panel, pulsing with energy that rippled through the metal, scrambling the pursuing ship's targeting arrays. Sparks flared, lights danced across the cabin, and Riley felt the shuttle respond almost as if it had gained new agility. The pursuers fired again, concentrated beams cutting through the void, but Vincent's horn pulsed in resonance with Riley's nervous energy, and the beams bent, refracted, deflected. The alien ship groaned under the strain, thrusters overheating as the tiny unicorn's presence seemed to disrupt their systems. Riley swallowed, heart hammering. I don't even understand what's happening. Vincent gave a soft, vibrating chime, wings flicking rapidly. His horn glowed brighter still, and the shuttle seemed to twist around the asteroid corridor with impossible speed, vaulting past debris and through narrow gaps. The pursuing ship struggled to keep up, scraping against rocks, energy beams scattering. They're losing control, Jonah shouted, voice tense but excited. Hold on, Chen, we've got a chance. Riley's stomach lurched as the shuttle pivoted sharply, narrowly avoiding a jagged outcrop. Vincent hovered near the viewport, glowing pulse steady, eyes locked on the intercepting ship. For the first time, Riley realized the unicorn wasn't just defending. They were learning, adapting, anticipating moves Riley couldn't see. The pursuing ship attempted a final maneuver, banking sharply, but a burst of Vincent's energy pulsed outward. The ship shuddered violently, systems scrambling, thrusters overloading. Sparks and alarms echoed across the void as it spun uncontrollably, unable to maintain its trajectory. Riley exhaled sharply, hands trembling but steadying on the controls. We did it," they whispered, almost in disbelief. Vincent twitched, horn dimming slightly, wings folding neatly, as if the exertion had tired him. Jonah slumped against a console, wiping sweat from his forehead. That was unreal. Riley glanced down at Vincent, tiny creature breathing softly, horn pulsing faintly in residual energy. The bond between them felt stronger than ever, a silent confirmation that they had survived together. And Riley knew this was only the beginning. Beyond the asteroid corridor, the void stretched endlessly, dark and cold, but for the first time, Riley felt a thread of hope. Vincent had not just saved them, they had proven what they could do, what they were. The universe beyond was dangerous, hunted by factions who didn't understand, but Riley realized. With Vincent, they could face anything. The shuttle's engines hummed steadily as they cleared the asteroid field. Riley leaned back, gripping the small unicorn tightly, pulse slowly syncing with Vincent's glowing rhythm. Outside, stars stretched into long streaks of light, the cold void vast and infinite. Inside, the bond between human and nano-unicorn pulsed with quiet strength. "We made it," Riley whispered. "But this isn't over." Vincent whickered softly, nuzzling Riley's neck, tiny wings flicking once. Riley pressed a hand to the horn, feeling the steady thrum, the warmth, the life. They knew the battles ahead would be impossible, dangerous, and relentless. But for now, they had survived. Together, and that small, impossible creature on their shoulder had chosen them. Riley sat in the shuttle's cockpit, Vincent curled comfortably on their shoulder, horn pulsing softly in rhythm with their heartbeat. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the viewport, a silent canvas of black and silver, unbroken except for distant glimmers of other systems. The tension that had gripped every nerve over the past days had begun to ease, though the memory of pursuit and near capture still lingered like a shadow. Jonah worked the controls quietly, eyes scanning for the next safe jump point. "We've put enough distance between us for now," he said, voice low, careful. "They won't catch up immediately." Riley let out a long breath, pressing a hand against Vincent's small, warm body. The little unicorn twitched in acknowledgement, wings flicking slightly. The pulse of his horn, a steady, comforting rhythm, seemed to carry reassurance, as if saying, "We're safe for now." Riley's gaze shifted to the small creature, the impossible being who had changed everything. "I still can't believe you chose me," they whispered. "I'm just me. I don't even know how to handle any of this." Vincent whickered softly, vibrating against Riley's neck. The hum resonated through Riley's chest, and for a moment it was enough. Enough to feel courage, enough to feel connection, enough to feel hope. Jonah glanced at Riley, expression softening. "Chen, you've done more than survive. You've protected him, trusted him when every second screamed not to. That's not just instinct. That's choice. That's what matters. You've both changed the rules here." Riley swallowed, mind racing. "Changed the rules, yeah, but the Aurelians, the humans who want to sell him, the factions, they'll come, eventually." "They may," Jonah admitted. "But the fact that he's bonded with you, that makes him unpredictable, dangerous to anyone trying to control him. And you've proven you can move with him, trust him, keep him alive." Riley pressed a hand against Vincent's horn. The glow deepened, pulsing warmly against their palm. "I don't even know what you're capable of," Riley murmured, voice low. "I just know I don't want anyone else controlling you." Vincent's soft hum seemed to echo the sentiment, vibrating in time with Riley's heartbeat. Wings flicked briefly, ears twitching, a gentle reassurance that words could never match. Riley realized that the tiny creature on their shoulder was no longer simply a companion or a stabilizer. He was a partner, a guide, a bond that transcended species, engineering, and expectation. Jonah adjusted the course, eyes scanning distant star systems. "We'll find somewhere to lay low," he said. "A system that's unclaimed, off the maps, off the grids. For a while at least, you two can exist without interference. Safe enough to figure out the next steps." Riley nodded, staring out at the stretching void. For the first time in days, they allowed themselves to hope. Not blind hope, cautious, tempered, but hope nonetheless. They weren't just running. They weren't just surviving. They were carving a space, a life, a future that had never existed before. Vincent twitched, sensing Riley's thoughts, wings flicking lightly as he shifted closer. The tiny creature's horn pulsed, warm and steady, and Riley felt it as an anchor. A reminder that even in a universe that seemed infinite and indifferent, connection, choice, and loyalty could bend the impossible to their favor. Riley exhaled, voice soft but firm. "We're going to figure this out, little one, together. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The little unicorn pressed against their neck, a soft, vibrating wicker that Riley took as agreement. His horn glowed once, brighter than before, and for a brief moment, the glow bathed the entire cockpit in gentle iridescent light. Riley's chest tightened at the sheer impossibility of it, the wonder, the bond that had formed against every rule, every expectation, every boundary. Jonah leaned back, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted. "Honestly, I don't know if anyone has. You two are rewriting the rules just by existing." Riley glanced at him, then back at Vincent. "Maybe," they said softly, "but I don't care. We'll write them our way, safe, free, together." The shuttle hummed steadily as it jumped to the next system, stars stretching into brilliant streaks. Riley leaned back, closing their eyes for a brief moment, feeling the tiny weight of Vincent against their shoulder, pulse and warmth perfectly synchronized with their own. The universe beyond remained vast and uncertain, but for the first time the future felt like a space they could inhabit, not merely flee from. Vincent wickered softly, wings flicking once, horn pulsing gently, a living heartbeat against Riley's chest. And Riley knew without doubt that whatever came next, they would face it side by side. The stars stretched endlessly before them, unyielding, infinite. And on a small, human-built shuttle drifting through the void with impossible light perched on their shoulder, Riley smiled. They were free, and they were together.